euro rather. The euro, obviously, in a major downtrend, and the only thing to point out here is when you look at this right-hand side of the chart, you can see where it is now. You can see where the previous lows were here, a while back, and we have definitely made a breakdown there. So these are breakout types of clues as to direction. Now, one of the problems with all of these different types of clues when we come to looking at those directions is that it's really hard to say exactly at what point should we take action, where should we take action, and what should we be doing, in terms of the market. What kind of a thing should we actually be able to do? We're going to look at a particular type of software that I find very useful, that has been very helpful. We're going to look at a chart here of, or a software called Vantage Point. It is a type of a software. There's a longer-term strategy that we might be able to want with breakouts, but we don't know exactly where we're going to go with that breakout, and so we need something to give us a little bit more help, something that's going to go beyond the typical technical analysis types of things that we follow to tell us exactly, precisely what point we might want to be able to get in trade and how we might want to control our risk. So we're looking at more than generalities in this case. There are specific points that we're going to come up with. Now, the tool that I use, as I said, is Vantage Point Intermarket Analysis software. I need to make it clear that this is what I use to analyze markets and kind of develop strategies, but I am not a salesman for Vantage Point. I do not sell a product. I don't receive any money for any products that might happen to be sold, but Vantage Point I find to be a useful tool, and that's one we're going to use in our discussion today. Vantage Point data is a little different than some of the other data that you will see in analytical software. It is based upon intermarket analysis. A neural network process determines the 25 or so markets that have the most influence on a target market, and then it reflects the degree of that influence to produce a set of intramarket data. This is a little different than some of your typical single market analysis, the open, high, low, close, that type of thing. But it does influence or show the weight, and it uses the neural network process on a computer to do that. Vantage Point's predictive indicators use typical prices, which is the average of the high, the low, and the close. And we talk about the indicators in Vantage Point that we're going to be talking about. You'll have a different perspective maybe than just the close, which is what most analytical software uses because they only are concerned with one price per period. But we're going to be looking at a situation where we're going to have all the data from a particular day to include in the analysis of the market and give us some readings on what the market is truly doing. When we look at the market, we're going to focus on one market, and we're going to go back. We're going to look at, we said the euro has kind of made its determination, or at least at this point, kind of a longer-term determination. Copper has, the E-mini is close, but we're going to look at the crude oil market for our analysis because the crude oil, when we look at this chart, has some other signals here. They haven't quite made a determination yet. Are we going higher, as some suspect? Are we going lower, as others suspect? Who knows the ramifications of the British Petroleum incident in the Gulf? Who knows what regulatory matters will come out of this? Who knows what kind of drilling, will be allowed? Lots of unknowns in the whole oil market. So that is the market that we're going to analyze. When we look at the oil market, we are talking about a situation, if you recall, a couple of years ago in the summer of July of 2008, we had that phenomenal high. When we had that phenomenal high around 147, that was probably an all-time peak in terms of kind of the exuberance or whatever you want to call it, people getting carried away with a particular market. And then we had from this all-time high here at 147 or thereabouts, we had some tumbling all the way down here to these lows in the vicinity of about $30, $35 a barrel. A lot of things that you can say here if you start to build a chart in terms of what we're talking about, where it points to become active. We're going to break this down a little bit more later, but you will be able to see here that we had on the bottom, we had a situation where you could have said, well, that's kind of like if you use your imagination a little bit, kind of a head and shoulders type of formation, extended W bottom, whatever you want. But we had a breakout there. Then when you look at a little bit further here, we have these little tiny moves here that look a little tiny anyway, and we have flag type situations, and we have triangles, where the market moves down and then breaks out of triangles. All of these are types of breakouts that we're going to be watching for, looking for as we trade this particular market. But the question that we have, if you will look at this market and you say, okay, I'm going to trade on trend line breakouts, the question is, where's the trend? We have a line we can mark here, and if we are kind of generous here, that extends pretty far. It goes pretty good. But now we got this little dip right here where all of a sudden the market kind of sinks down. And so should that trend line be adjusted to this point right here? And whoops, we got another one. Maybe we'll adjust that trend line to right here. Well, let's adjust it to here. I guess the point of all this is just to say there are a lot of potential places to place a trend line, and it kind of depends a little bit on the thickness of your particular pencil. How thick is your pencil, and what are you going to be using in terms of a trend line breakout, and at what point is it a breakout, and how will you trade it? We're going to go back now to our computer screen. We're going to go to Vantage Point. We're going to look at some of the things that you can see on Vantage Point in the crude oil market. We're going to cut back a little bit on the time frame so we can make their signals a little bit clearer. And we're going to cut way back here, zoom in a little bit, and come back into, well, let's say we'll cut back here. This is a 1-year chart. This is 9 months. Let's go to 6 months. That gives us kind of a, spaces it out a little bit, and we'll be able to point out some things on this particular chart in terms of what we're going to do by using Vantage Point to come up with some signals, some precise points at which we're going to be able to take some action. When we look at the chart, we can see that there are several different spots on here that are clues that we want to definitely be interested in. As I mentioned, we're not going to pay too much attention to all the trend lines and the other types of things, but I want to point out one thing that it will be applied to some of the other charts that we talk about, and it'll get lost if I don't point it out right now. But one of the things that you always would like to look at in terms of what is going on in a market is to look at the doji charts right here. Dojis. A doji is a situation where the market closes and opens at approximately the same price. It kind of runs up a little bit and then closes at approximately the same type. Now you'll see there are a frequent number of dojis. There's dojis along the way here. Those are doji candles. I'm not, a total candlestick guru or anything like that, but you'll also see there are some others in here that aren't as significant. So a breakout of a doji is one thing that I think is important to watch, because you can see as the market, when it does break down below the range of that particular candle, tends to lead the direction that the market is going to take. So you have the same type of thing here on the bottom where it breaks out of a doji. So a doji is one type of thing that you do want to be looking for. Now we're going to add a couple of indicators here from